If you've ever been disillusioned, disappointed, or discouraged in your search for love, and you know there has to be a better way to find the healthy, soul-filling love you've always longed for, then you've discovered the podcast for you. I know, as Ken's work personally has led me to find the love of my life. So here's your host of Deeper Dating, Ken Page.
Hello and welcome to the Deeper Dating Podcast. I'm Ken Page. I'm a psychotherapist. I'm the author of the best-selling book, Deeper Dating, your host on this podcast, and the creator of the Deeper Dating Intensive. I am so glad that you are here because today we're going to be talking about the two questions that will most powerfully help you find healthy love. First, let me just say that if you go to the deeperdatingpodcast.com, you can get a transcript of this episode. You can sign up for my mailing list and get a wonderful ebook with the 5 concepts around intimacy that have gone viral on Psychology Today. It's a simple, beautiful ebook with action steps. And if you sign up for my mailing list on the podcast, you will get that as well as information about all of my resources and the resources of other people whose work I love. Okay, so let's dive in. In my work, my 40 years as a psychotherapist and my personal journey and all of my decades of teaching, I've distilled 2 different sets of questions that a friend of mine, Chip Conley, says the right question can light up a conversation, a room, a lifetime. And that is so true. That is so true. And these 2 questions will light up your search for love in powerful and beautiful ways. They will change your future and they will change your present because you will learn the deep skills of self-honoring that are absolutely essential for finding and keeping and growing healthy love. Okay, so the first one is a distinction question. Is this an attraction of inspiration? Or is it an attraction of deprivation? Some people call that an attraction of deprivation, which is also true. So let me talk about these 2 different kind of attractions because this discrimination process is huge. And is it black and white? No. It's obviously a spectrum. There is nobody who isn't going to be depriving us in our relationship. And even some of the most terrible relationships are at times inspiring or even inspiring in profound and ongoing ways, but still ultimately toxic or deprivational. So it is a spectrum. But let me just talk about the general differences between those 2. Now, this is the concept that Oprah took from my book and spread in many, many newsletters and on her website. And in my book, I say if there's one thing that I would want you to take away from this work, it's to recognize the difference between attractions of deprivation and attractions of inspiration and only choose the latter. So let's talk about what the difference is. Attractions of deprivation are sexy as hell. They can be white hot desirable. Often that flavor of unavailability, that flavor that you have to win somebody over, that maddening experience of sometimes they're wonderful and oh boy, then they just kind of leave you hanging. Or sometimes they're kind, and then sometimes they're kind of sarcastic and nasty. They're emotionally available, but they can't really commit. So you never get that wonderful, beautiful, glorious sense of deep, deep safety, which, I don't know, I think it's really, really important in a relationship. So these are the attractions that grab us because they touch us in the place where we feel like we're not enough. And they reinforce that. And they make us feel like we need to prove that we are enough. And if we can get this person who now all of a sudden has this glorious glow about them, they become ultra more wonderful and valuable because they're hard to get, because they're not totally available. The assumption is that they're more worthy and hence kind of slightly more worthy than us. And hence we have to work really hard to get them to love us, or to get them to be honest, or to get them to be thoughtful. And this is the path to hell. But it looks like the road to heaven if you can just get it right. So you try to get it right and get it right and get it right and explain to them and teach them and show them. And as you do that, to some degree, your sense of self-worth crumbles, and all of the old beliefs about your not being as valuable get kind of strengthened along the way. And as you get weaker, your dependence grows stronger. Your ability to leave gets diminished because you are stuck in this framework of trying to prove your worth. These are attractions of deprivation, and many of us have been lost for years in these attractions. I remember being in a relationship with someone who kind of loved me, but felt like I wasn't like it. Kind of loved me, sometimes would really say, let's commit, and then sometimes not, sometimes would be kind, sometimes would be nasty. And I was, oh God, I was crazy about him. I was just crazy about him. And I knew it wasn't good. And I was talking to some friends of mine, and one of the friends just did this thing where she started being cold to me just for a couple minutes. And she said, do you see how that affected you? Like, you're human. That's how that affects human beings when people do that. And she said, that's not good for you. And she was right. And the other person said something really wise to me. He said, Ken, it's going to feel like amputating a part of your own body, but you know you have to do it. And then ultimately you will be okay. And he was right. And I did. And thank God I did, because I could have stayed on that roller coaster forever. So those are attractions of deprivation. And Harville Hendrix says that people who, like if you imagine an attraction spectrum from 0 to 10, where the zeros you're not attracted to at all, the 10s you're crazy attracted to, like sick attracted to. Harville Hendrix says that we are crazy about those people because consciously they embody some of the most wonderful characteristics that we're looking for, but unconsciously they embody some of the worst characteristics of our primary caregivers. And the ego is trying to go back to the scene of the crime to finally get those primary caregivers to love us right through this person. So that's what's often going on in these crazy attractions. Yes, you like redheads. Yes, you like tall people. Yes, you like short people. Whatever it is, yes to that physical stuff. But psychically, you are recognizing something else. You know, there is a moth, and I think it's the silkworm moth, that can smell one moth of the opposite sex from 1 mile away. How wild is that? How wild is that? But you and I have this incredibly attuned unconscious sense where we notice what someone's lips are held like, what their eyes are held like, what the vibe is from them that we don't even consciously get. But something unconscious says that feels like home, and it pulls at us. Those are attractions of deprivation, and they're that sexy for those unconscious reasons. So, but they're really, really, really easy to stay with, and they're really, really hard to separate from. And usually we need help to be able to do that. Attractions of inspiration are what we are looking for. Those are the attractions where, yes, you're physically attracted, but there is a sense of goodness and integrity, and it's bone deep, And that is so different than when you think you're going to have to teach somebody about goodness and integrity, the path to pain. An attraction of inspiration is someone who has curated those qualities because they matter to that person. And really, your time and your life is precious. You don't want to be with anyone else. Would you go into business with someone who's not honest? I hope not. With someone who is not capable? I hope not. Well, how much more true for our intimate relationships, and how much do we deserve to be picky in those ways? And I don't mean picky about the superficial things. I mean picky about integrity, honesty, decency, treasuring you, generosity. Those are the qualities that give you a happy future, not where you're trying to grab it out of someone who doesn't give it. A friend of mine who was in a really unhealthy deprivational relationship said to me once, Ken, I realize that you can get blood from a stone. This is pretty graphic, folks, so trigger alert. He said, you just keep hitting yourself in the head with that stone over and over and over again until you don't know where the blood is coming from, even though it's coming from you. That's how you get blood from a stone. It's your blood. So I think that's really, really true. So an attraction of inspiration is one where your nervous system registers goodness, commitment, like not like I'm in love with you, I want to be with you forever on the second date, but an appropriate level of commitment. Goodness, decency, honesty, even when it's hard, caring, cherishing, these basic qualities of goodness. And a friend of mine, and I quote this all the time, Hara Morano, editor-at-large of Psychology Today, says that there are 3 C's in looking for a relationship. The first is character, the second is character, and the third is character. Now, an attraction of inspiration, that's all you want. And when you align your search for love, where you say, I will not do attractions of deprivation anymore. I won't do them. I will not do them. I will not spend and waste my time on attractions of deprivation. If I need a coach, if I need a therapist, if I need a best friend to kick me in the butt, if I'm getting sucked into one, I'm not getting sucked into one. I'm going to close that door. And I'm going to activate this other taste, this other circuitry within me, which we all have, which is an attraction of inspiration circuitry, where those are the qualities that we're looking for. And I say this all the time. When you have physical and romantic attraction combined with that sense of goodness, just picture it. Just picture the happiness that you will feel. Just picture how it could feel like the future is spreading out in front of you, and it's the right future. That's what you're looking for, and you're not looking for anything else. And if you want to save yourself an incredible amount of pain, and you want to give yourself an incredible amount of fulfillment, make that choice. Those people are out there. Okay, so that is question 1. Question 2 is a very powerful question, and when you make this your question, you are actually going to develop a more secure attachment style. You're actually going to be able to train yourself into a more secure attachment style. And I'll tell you what the question is, and then I'll tell you why that's true. The question is, do I feel safe and seen with this person? If you like a more kind of spiritual question, does my soul feel safe and seen with this person? Does my heart feel safe and seen with this person? When you make that your evaluative question, when you make that the question that you make your romantic decisions around, a whole bunch of things happen. One thing that happens is you're in a place of dignity. You have a spine, you have flexibility, but you also have a backbone, and you register when your nervous system doesn't feel safe and doesn't feel seen. And when that happens, maybe it's a great person, but you need to kind of take a step back and say, well, why don't I feel safe and seen? And you might need to tell the person what it is that you need. You might need to get past the shame and embarrassment and awkwardness of doing that and ask the person what you need. And when you do that, you will learn so much more about who that person is. In my 6-month intensives, when people go through the attractions process, they do a pledge. They create a pledge that's part of my work. And it's a pledge of committing, planting a flag to say no to attractions of deprivation, and to say an enthusiastic yes for attractions of inspiration. In these intensives, people who are in relationships then make this their question. Does my soul feel safe and seen with this person who I'm dating? People who are in relationships who do the intensive, assuming they may not know the answer to that, or they may kind of feel like essentially yes, but in some really important ways no. Their task, the task for people who are in a relationship, and not just a romantic relationship, any relationship, is to actually put words on that oh so human, vulnerable need or thing that doesn't feel right. To do it in a not blamey way, but allowing yourself to express, articulate, explain what you need, what you're feeling, and to ask for that. And sounds easy, or maybe it doesn't sound easy, but it is really not easy. It is not easy to do. It takes deep support and deep remembrance of these qualities that I call core gifts, because then you see and feel your value. So in either case, dating or in a relationship, that question, does my soul feel safe and seen with this person or in this interaction? When you make that your question, like I said, you dignify yourself. And people who are predatory are going to notice your spine, and they'll be less interested in you. And not necessarily, that is not necessarily true, but it is often true. They might feel like you're a challenge that they're willing to try to take on. But usually they'll know that you are not going to be a sucker for their manipulations and their gaslighting. Because your question now is not, do they like me? Or even, do I like them and do they like me back? Your question is, does my soul feel safe and seen with that person? And picture this. Picture how you would be different when that was your question. Just picture that. So when you do that, a few things happen. One, you get more and more allergic to people with whom your soul doesn't feel safe and seen. Two, when it doesn't feel safe and seen, you think, well, why is that my soul doesn't feel safe and seen? What happened here that I don't feel safe and seen? And then you think, oh, this is what it was. I said something really personal, for example, and they didn't respond to it at all, and they jumped in and talked about themselves. And that didn't feel good. And I got shut down because I didn't like that. There was no warmth in how that happened. So then you recognize that, and then you think, all right, is this someone who I can say, hey, can we go back to this because it was important to me? Are they going to shame me? Are they going to laugh at me? Are they going to tell me I'm being too sensitive? Are they going to roll their eyes? Or are they going to go, oh, of course, yes, please tell me. And so when you do this brave act, you will know so much more about who this person is. That's why the more you live this way, the quicker you'll find out if it's an attraction of deprivation or an attraction of inspiration. So that's one thing that happens. The other thing that happens that's really cool, and this is research backed, when your goal becomes to find somebody with whom you feel safe and seen, you will look for those people more consciously, you will notice those people more quickly, and you will be more attracted to them and interested in them. And you'll be less interested in the people who don't do that. These are all of the fabulous things that happen when you train yourself to make this your central organizing question in your search for love. Can you picture this? Can you picture this being your question? and how that would change you. So the last piece about this is that when you do that, you are building a secure attachment style. Why? Because let's call it your inner child, the vulnerable, tender part of you that maybe doesn't fully know how to take care of itself in this big adult world. Really, it's the most tender part. So this kind of inner child part or most vulnerable part has not been safe with you when you've been looking for love in deprivational or semi-deprivational relationships. It has felt unsafe. And when we feel unsafe, when our deep inner self feels unsafe, it creates a primitive defense, which is a wall. Not a door, but a wall. And that primitive defense might be that you don't date. It might be that you date assholes. It might be that you drink before you date to shut down your feelings. It could be a whole bunch of different things. It could be that you're attracted to jerks and you push away people who are available and kind. And that's actually another important point that we can get into in another episode. Attractions of inspiration grow differently. And in an attraction of inspiration, when you find someone's available, drama-free and not going anywhere, there is a good chance that you're going to clutch, that you're going to kind of choke, that you're going to freeze, that your attraction will drop. That is called the wave of distancing. I talk about it in other episodes. It is temporary, and people often call it the ick, but it's not. That's a very, very unsophisticated understanding of the spasm of fear that when we don't flee, but we don't pressure ourselves at all, we just take a few steps back, but let ourselves enjoy the person, that spasm relaxes. Almost always the feelings come back. Not always, but almost always. And with it, a clearer sense of if this person is right for you or not. Anyway, when your deep psyche knows that you are recognizing when it feels safe and seen and when it doesn't, and it knows that you're going to protect it because that's now becoming your organizing principle, it will finally relax. It will stop treating you as the enemy. Its walls will go down. You will become integrated, and you will experience so much of a deeper, secure attachment style. So, dear folks, these two principles change your world. They change your world. They change your future. They are the principles that lead to happiness. They're simple, but they're hard unless you do them with help and support, because they involve such a kind of retraining of the heart, the behaviors, and the nervous system, and also really going cross-current to what our culture teaches us. But when we do make these two questions our questions, our chance for happiness increases incredibly. Our protection against pain increases incredibly. And our chance to have a life that's rich with love also increases incredibly. Thank you so much for listening. And once again, if you go to deeperdatinggifts.com, you can get my free ebook with 5 keys to deeper intimacy that have all gone viral on Psychology Today. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to connecting on the next episode of the Deeper Dating Podcast.
And that's it for today's episode of Deeper Dating. Be sure to go to deeperdatingpodcast.com, as Ken has a few more gifts for you. Then join us on the next episode.